The Quiet Letter. The story begins with a calm evening in Los Angeles. The city lights shimmered outside the wide glass windows of a quiet suite where Keanu Reeves sat alone. His black jacket hung loosely on his shoulders, and his eyes rested on a single white envelope lying on the table. It had no name, no seal, just soft handwriting that said, "Open when you're ready." The envelope had been there for days. Every time Keanu looked at it, his heart beat a little faster. He knew who had left it, Ana de Armas. She had slipped it into his jacket pocket weeks ago, right before she left the film set for the last time. She had smiled that gentle smile of hers, the one that carried both warmth and goodbye in a single glance. The world had been talking for weeks about Anna's upcoming wedding with Tom Cruise. Magazines showed them smiling under bright lights. But behind those smiles, something softer and more complicated had lived. Keanu had chosen silence. He had always believed that love was not about possession, but about peace. Still, when he saw the photos, his chest ached in a way he didn't want to admit. As the wind brushed against the window, he finally opened the envelope. Inside, there was a folded letter and a small dried lavender flower pressed neatly between the pages. He touched it carefully, as if it might crumble beneath his fingers. The letter began softly. Dear Keanu, if you're reading this, it means I've stepped into a new chapter of my life. But before that begins, I wanted you to know something. There are people we meet who don't stay, but they change us in ways we never forget. You were that person for me? Keanu paused. His hands trembled slightly. He read the words again, slowly, as if they carried hidden meaning. Ana continued. When the world was loud, you were quiet. When I doubted myself, you listened. And when I wanted to run, you reminded me that sometimes stillness is strength. I will always carry that with me. Please don't come to the wedding, not because I don't want you there, but because I know your heart is too kind to stand in a room full of memories that might hurt. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. A small smile appeared on his lips, but his eyes held sadness. She was right. There were memories too tender to stand beside. The night grew deeper. Keanu placed the letter back on the table and looked out at the city again. People were still awake, laughing in restaurants, crossing streets, chasing dreams. And somewhere, Ana was preparing for her wedding, maybe staring at her own reflection, wondering if she had done the right thing. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise stood in his large, well-lit study, going through old photographs. He stopped at one of Ana laughing beside Keanu during a film shoot. Tom's expression softened. He knew what everyone pretended not to see. There had been something pure between them. Not romance, not just friendship, but a rare understanding that didn't fit any label. Tom had seen how Keanu treated everyone, with patience, with silence, with care. And though the world painted Tom as the star, he knew in quiet moments that Keanu's kind of strength was the one that truly lasted. As the wedding day approached, news cameras lined up outside a small coastal venue in Malibu. The sea roared softly behind the floral arch, and the air smelled like salt and roses. Ana walked in wearing a simple white dress, elegant but calm, with no heavy jewelry, just the lavender flower pinned near her heart, the same kind that had once been in Keanu's letter. She smiled at everyone, but her mind kept drifting to that letter she had written. Did he read it? Did he understand? In another corner of the city, Keanu quietly packed a small wooden box. Inside it was a thin bracelet made of silver, engraved with a single line. For your peace. It wasn't expensive or grand, but it carried something more. Intention. He sealed the box and wrote a short note. May every step ahead be light. He didn't sign his name. He asked a quiet staff member to deliver it to the venue on the wedding morning, without revealing who it was from. As the ceremony began, the ocean shimmered gold beneath the sunlight. Tom stood tall, his smile calm. When Ana walked down the aisle, there was a brief hush. Everyone saw beauty, but Tom saw something deeper. Her eyes, though filled with joy, carried a faraway gentleness. He took her hand, and she smiled. During the quiet moment before the vows, a small delivery boy walked up to the wedding planner. She whispered something to Ana, who turned and saw the box placed gently on the table near the flowers. She hesitated but picked it up. When she opened it, her breath caught. The bracelet lay inside, shining softly in the sunlight. She read the note and her eyes filled with quiet tears. Tom noticed it, and instead of asking, he gently squeezed her hand. She looked at him, surprised by his silence, and he nodded slowly. He understood more than she expected. It was the first time she realized. Kindness doesn't always come with words. Sometimes it comes with understanding. After the wedding, when the music had faded and the guests had gone, Tom and Anna sat by the sea. The sky had turned deep orange, and the waves carried their reflections. Tom finally spoke. It was from him, wasn't it? Anna didn't answer, but her silence was enough. Tom smiled faintly. "He's a good man," Anna whispered. "He is." That night, while everyone else slept, Keanu drove alone through the quiet highway. No music played, no destination planned. He just wanted to feel the road beneath him. Sometimes peace doesn't come from being seen. It comes from letting go. He smiled to himself as he whispered, "Congratulations, Anna." Far away, the wind carried his words softly toward the sea. And though no one saw it, the lavender flower pinned to Anna's dress swayed gently in the ocean breeze, as if it had heard. The silence after the applause, the wedding was over. But the echoes of clapping hands and music still floated through Anna's mind like waves that refused to rest. She stood near the window of her honeymoon suite, staring at the soft light falling over the sea. The lavender flower she had pinned to her dress now lay on the table beside the silver bracelet. Both were simple, small things, but they carried more weight than any diamond ever could. Tom was asleep, his breathing slow and calm. He had smiled through everything. The cameras, the speeches, the endless photographs. But even in that smile, Anna had sensed a quiet exhaustion. Fame looked bright from far away, but up close it was often just another cage made of light. Anna touched the bracelet again. Her fingers traced the engraved words, "For your peace." She didn't need to guess who it was from. She knew Keanu's kind of language, the way he said everything through silence, the way he gave without expecting anything back. And yet, there was something about this gift that felt different. Not a goodbye, not a wish, but almost like a reminder. As she sat down, the night outside deepened. Flashes from cameras on distant boats still flickered in the dark. She sighed, whispering softly, "You couldn't even stay hidden, could you, world?" But deep down, she wasn't thinking of the world. She was thinking of him. In another corner of the city, Keanu sat on the porch of his small house, far from Hollywood. A warm cup of tea steamed in his hands, untouched for an hour. He didn't regret not going to the wedding. He knew it was better that way. But sometimes doing the right thing still hurt. His friend and longtime assistant, Claire, arrived quietly, holding a newspaper. "They looked beautiful," she said softly, placing it on the table. The cover showed Tom and Anna laughing under the sunlight, surrounded by petals. Keanu smiled faintly. "They did," he said. Claire watched him. "You sent her something, didn't you?" He didn't deny it. "Just something small. Something to say?" "I understand," she nodded. "You always do that. Understand what people can't even say out loud." He chuckled, almost shyly. "Maybe because I don't talk much." For a moment, there was silence between them. Then Claire looked at him with quiet honesty. "You know, Keanu, not all goodbyes need to stay forever." He looked out at the horizon. "I know, but sometimes they should." Meanwhile, in Malibu, Anna woke early the next morning. The sea looked endless, the kind of calm that hides deep movement beneath. Tom was already awake, sitting near the balcony, reading. He smiled when she approached. "You didn't sleep much," he said gently. "Neither did you," she replied. He looked at her with a kind of maturity that came only from years of understanding fame, failure, and forgiveness. "There's something I want to ask," he said carefully. Anna waited. "That bracelet," Tom continued, "it meant something. Not just as a gift, but as a memory. I could see it in your eyes." Anna nodded slowly. "Yes, it did. Was it him?" Tom asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "Yes." He didn't get angry. He didn't even look surprised. Instead, he said something that would stay with her forever. "Then I'm glad he sent it. Because if it brings you peace, it also brings peace to me." Anna blinked back tears. She wasn't used to this kind of understanding. The world often celebrated big gestures, but it rarely valued quiet kindness. And yet, here she was, surrounded by it from both men in her life. Later that day, as reporters crowded outside, Anna and Tom left for Paris. Their flight was calm, but her mind wasn't. As she looked out of the plane window, she remembered the first time she met Keanu. It was years ago during a night shoot on a film set. She was new, nervous, and lost in a room full of people who already knew each other. Keanu had walked up to her with a cup of coffee and said softly, "You'll do fine. Just be honest in the scene. The camera loves honesty." That one line had changed how she acted, not just on screen, but in life. Now, years later, as she sat beside her new husband, she realized that Keanu's influence was still there, woven into her choices, her calm, her strength. In Los Angeles, Keanu began working again quietly on a small charity project, building homes for orphaned children. He avoided interviews, never posted updates, and made sure no one knew he was behind most of the funding. When someone once asked him why he stayed hidden, he smiled and said, "Kindness isn't a performance, but destiny has a strange sense of timing." 2 weeks after the wedding, a small video clip went viral, Anna visiting a children's art center in Paris. In the background of the video, a little girl handed her a drawing. It showed a man giving a flower to a woman under the words, "For your peace." The internet exploded. Fans began to wonder if the drawing was connected to Keanu's gift. Hashtags spread, interviews multiplied, and soon everyone wanted to know the story behind the unseen gift. Tom noticed it first. He walked over to Anna as she scrolled through the flood of comments. "You can't hide forever," he said with a smile. She looked up. "I wasn't trying to, but I also don't want people to turn kindness into gossip." He nodded. "Then maybe it's time you turn it into something else." "What do you mean?" she asked. "A message," Tom said. "If the world's listening, give them something worth hearing." That night, Anna posted a message on her social page. It read simply, "Sometimes gifts don't need names. Sometimes. Peace itself is the greatest thing you can receive. Whoever sent that bracelet, thank you for reminding me that love can exist quietly, even in goodbye." She didn't mention Keanu's name. But the world didn't need her to. They already knew. In Los Angeles, Keanu saw the post while sitting in his car at a red light. For a moment, he just stared at it. Then, as the light turned green, he smiled softly and whispered, "You found it." He didn't comment, didn't share, didn't react. He simply kept driving. Later that week, an envelope arrived at Anna's Paris hotel. There was no name, no message, just a small Polaroid of a sunrise over Los Angeles with a note at the back. "The light always finds those who choose peace." Anna showed it to Tom. He smiled. "I hope you write back." She looked at the photo again and whispered, "Not yet." Some letters are better left unanswered, for now. But deep down, both of them knew, some stories never really end. They just rest, waiting for the right chapter to continue. The unspoken echo, the world moved fast, but emotions didn't. 2 months had passed since the wedding, yet the waves of it still rippled through their lives. Anna had returned to filming in London. Tom had started a new project in New York. And Keanu, quiet as ever, had disappeared into his routines of solitude, long drives, and quiet mornings that looked the same but never quite felt the same. The story wasn't supposed to go beyond that wedding day, but destiny rarely stops when hearts remain unfinished. Anna sat in her makeup room one early morning. The mirror lights glowed softly as the crew moved around, setting up for the next scene. She had a new role, a woman who hides her pain behind laughter. Ironically, it felt like no acting was needed. Between touch-ups, her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. No name, no subject. Just a sentence. It's strange how peace feels heavy sometimes. Her heartbeat slowed. She stared at the words for a long moment, unsure whether to smile or tremble. It didn't say who it was from, but she knew. Keanu's silence had its own voice. That one line carried more weight than entire conversations. She typed a reply, erased it, typed again, then finally left it empty. Sometimes not replying was the only way to keep peace from breaking, but the message stayed in her mind like a whisper that refused to fade. That evening, during a quiet break, she sat by herself near the set garden. London's air was cold, but she didn't mind. As she sipped her tea, her co-star walked up to her, a kind-hearted actor named Lucas, who had a way of sensing things without asking. "You look like you're somewhere else," he said softly. She smiled. "Maybe I am." "Whoever he is," Lucas said, "you miss him with kindness, not regret. That's rare." She looked at him in surprise. "How did you—" He laughed. "I've seen it before. When someone taught you peace, not pain." Those words hit deeper than he could imagine. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Keanu sat with Claire going through letters from fans. Most were about gratitude, some about loneliness. One letter from a young woman read, "You once said kindness isn't a performance. I think I finally understand. I helped someone today without telling them. It felt like breathing." He smiled as he folded the letter. Claire watched him. "You know, Keanu, the world's talking about your unseen gift again. Anna's post made everyone curious." He shrugged lightly. "Let them talk. Maybe it reminds someone to give without expecting anything back." She nodded, but then asked quietly, "And what about you? Do you ever expect her to come back?" He paused, his gaze fixed on the cup in his hand. "No," he said after a long silence. "I just hope she remembers what peace feels like." Fate, however, had a different plan. One evening, as Anna was preparing for a late-night shoot, her assistant rushed in with news. "Anna, someone just made a donation to your foundation, $500,000. They didn't leave a name, just a note." "A note?" Anna asked. Her assistant handed her a small slip of paper. Written in neat handwriting were the words, "For the smiles that heal what fame cannot." She held the paper for a long time, then closed her eyes. Tears threatened to fall, but she steadied herself. That night, after filming, she sat in her car and recorded a short voice note. Not to send, but just to say what her heart couldn't carry anymore. "Hey," she whispered softly, "if somehow you hear this, thank you for not disappearing completely, for reminding me that kindness doesn't end where distance begins." She saved the file, unnamed, and kept it hidden. Days later, she found herself invited to a charity gala in Los Angeles, the same city she had left behind after the wedding. Tom couldn't attend due to his schedule, and she went alone quietly. No interviews, no grand entrance, just her, in a simple dress, carrying that same lavender flower tucked inside her bag. The gala was filled with familiar faces, actors, producers, artists, all dressed in perfection. But as the evening went on, Anna found herself looking toward the quiet corner near the exit. He was there, Keanu. He looked exactly as she remembered, black suit, no tie, calm eyes that didn't search for attention. When their eyes met across the hall, time slowed. Neither smiled immediately, neither moved. But the silence between them was louder than any applause around. After a long moment, he gave a small nod, one of acknowledgement. Not surprise, she nodded back. Later that night, after most guests had left, she walked toward him. He was standing near the balcony looking out at the city lights. "You knew I'd come," she said quietly. He smiled faintly. "No, I just hoped peace would bring you back here someday." She stepped closer. "You sent the donation." He didn't deny it. It wasn't about money. It was about reminding people that healing can be shared. She took a deep breath. "You always talk like that. So simply, so quietly. Do you ever get tired of being calm?" He looked at her. "All the time. But peace isn't about feeling calm. It's about choosing it, even when everything inside you wants to break." She lowered her gaze. "I didn't think I'd see you again." "Neither did I," he said softly. "But some stories, they don't really end. They just pause until the heart's ready to continue." They stood there in silence. The city lights reflected on the glass, and in that reflection, they looked like two souls who had finally stopped running. "Thank you," she whispered. For the bracelet, for the words, for everything you never said out loud? He smiled gently. Some things don't need to be said. They just need to be felt. A quiet wind passed through the open balcony. For a moment, they both looked out at the city below, so alive, yet so fragile. Anna turned to him one last time. If life ever brings us to the same path again, promise me you won't walk away. He hesitated, then said, only if you promise not to look back when I do. She smiled. A real smile this time, the kind that comes after forgiveness. As she walked away, he stayed where he was, watching her disappear into the crowd. And in that soft stillness, Keanu whispered something only the night could hear. Thank you for finding peace. He didn't know it yet, but that moment would echo back to him in ways neither of them could imagine. The storm behind calm eyes the next morning. Los Angeles woke up to headlines that weren't meant to exist. Paparazzi had caught a single frame. Keanu and Anna standing together on the balcony of the charity gala, her eyes soft, his expression unreadable. One picture and the internet began to build 1,000 stories out of silence. By noon, it was everywhere. Anna and Keanu, the moment that said everything. Tom's reaction to Anna's secret meeting. The quiet connection that never really ended. Anna's phone didn't stop ringing. Messages from friends, her manager, her publicist, all trying to control the wave before it turned into a storm. She sat quietly in her hotel room, looking at the photo again. It wasn't scandalous, not even intimate. Just two people sharing stillness. But people always see what they want to see, not what's really there. Tom called her later that evening. His voice was calm, but she could sense the careful weight behind it. I saw the photo, he said softly. Anna closed her eyes. I know. You don't have to explain, he added quickly. I know what it meant. I know who he is to you. She exhaled slowly. There was no secret. We just saw each other. It wasn't planned. Tom paused for a long moment. I believe you, but the world doesn't. And sometimes, their noise becomes bigger than the truth. His words lingered even after the call ended. Meanwhile, across town, Keanu sat in his garage fixing an old motorcycle. He'd seen the photos too. Claire had shown him, worried about the headlines. You should release a statement, she said gently. They're twisting it already. He shook his head. If I speak, it becomes real. If I stay quiet, it fades, she frowned. But your silence always costs you. He looked at her with that same quiet strength that never demanded to be understood. Peace has a price too. I've learned to pay it. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. She replayed their brief moment on the balcony again and again, his calm eyes, his words, his stillness. It wasn't romantic. It was something deeper. The kind of connection that didn't burn, but healed. The next day, she decided to take control of the story before it controlled her. She called her publicist and said softly, I'll give one interview, just one, but it has to be honest. When the interview aired, the world listened. The host asked directly, People are saying that you and Keanu share something beyond friendship. What's the truth? Anna smiled faintly, her voice steady. The truth is, some people enter your life not to stay forever, but to teach you how to stay kind, even when the world is unkind. Keanu is that person for me? The audience went silent. She continued, his gift, his silence, his way of seeing people, it changes you. I won't apologize for being grateful to someone who helped me grow. The clip went viral, not because of gossip, but because of grace. Even Tom watched it from New York and smiled quietly. He sent her a text that simply said, beautifully said. But the story didn't end there. 2 days later, Keanu received a letter in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting was familiar. Anna's. Inside it said, You once said peace isn't about what you feel. It's about what you choose. I'm still learning that. The world may not understand our silence, but I do. Thank you for never asking me to explain myself. He read it twice before placing it back in the envelope. Then, without hesitation, he wrote a reply. The world will always speak louder than silence, but silence lasts longer. Stay kind, Anna. The noise will pass. He didn't send it. He simply folded it and placed it inside his notebook, as if some words were meant to be written only to be kept. But fate, again, found a way to stir what should have been left still. A month later, a film project was announced, a charity collaboration between multiple Hollywood stars to raise funds for children's hospitals. Among the listed names were Tom Cruise, Ana de Armas, and Keanu Reeves. No one had planned it that way. The producers had reached out to them separately, unaware of the silent story connecting them. When Anna saw the announcement, she felt her breath catch. She hadn't spoken to Keanu since that night, and now they would share a set again, this time not as actors, but as advocates for something pure. The first meeting was set at a studio in Los Angeles. Cameras, press, journalists, all waiting. Tom was already there, shaking hands, smiling for photos. When Anna walked in, he greeted her warmly, no hesitation, no distance. Then the room went quiet as Keanu entered. He greeted everyone the same way, polite, calm, distant. But when his eyes met Anna's, something invisible passed between them. Not guilt, not longing, just understanding. The journalists noticed it immediately. The subtle stillness, the shared gaze that lasted a heartbeat too long. During the press conference, a reporter asked, "Mr. Reeves, Mrs. de Armas, you've both inspired millions with your kindness. How do you stay grounded when the world constantly watches you?" Keanu thought for a moment. By remembering that attention fades faster than humanity. When you stop chasing noise, you hear what actually matters, Anna added softly. And sometimes, what matters is the people who remind you of that truth. The audience applauded, but in that moment, both of them felt something deeper. The kind of peace that doesn't erase the past, but makes it gentler to remember. After the event ended, Tom approached Keanu quietly. "Thank you," he said. Keanu looked puzzled. "For what?" "For being who you are," Tom said. "People like you make this industry breathe." Keanu smiled faintly. "And people like you make it move." They shook hands, not as rivals, but as men who understood that love isn't always a battle, and kindness isn't weakness. That night, Anna stood alone outside the studio, watching the stars appear above the city skyline. Keanu walked past her to his car, but paused. "Take care, Anna," he said quietly. "You too," she replied. "And thank you for everything you didn't say." He smiled one last time before walking away into the soft glow of the streetlights. She stood there long after he was gone, the night air wrapping around her like a gentle reminder that not every connection needs a name, and not every goodbye means it's over, because sometimes the strongest bonds exist only in the silence between two people who once understood each other completely. The choice between silence and truth weeks passed, but the air around them still felt charged, like the calm before another storm. Every magazine, every headline, every podcast, they all found new ways to say the same thing. Something is unfinished between Keanu and Anna. Anna tried to ignore it. She filled her days with work, interviews, charity events, and her quiet mornings writing letters she never sent. But some nights, when the world slowed down and the noise stopped, her mind would drift to that balcony, the one moment when silence had said more than any word could. On a rainy evening in London, she sat by her window, a notebook open beside her. The lavender flower, now dry and faded, still rested between its pages. She touched it softly and whispered, "You said peace lasts longer than noise." "I hope you were right." Her phone buzzed. It was Tom. "Hey," she answered softly. "You sound tired," he said. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she replied, though her voice betrayed her. There was a pause. "Listen, Anna," Tom said gently. "They asked if we'd both attend the final shoot for the charity film. Keanu's going to be there too. Are you sure you're ready for that?" Anna looked out at the rain, the city lights blurred behind drops on glass. "I don't think anyone's ever really ready to meet their past," she said quietly. "But maybe that's how healing begins." Tom didn't argue. "Just promise me one thing," he said. "If you need to speak, speak." "Silence has done enough," she nodded, though he couldn't see it. "I promise." The charity project's final scene was set at a small orphanage near Santa Monica. It wasn't scripted, just raw moments with children, laughter, and connection. Keanu arrived early, helping carry boxes of toys and books. No cameras, no press, just quiet purpose. When Anna arrived, she saw him from a distance, kneeling beside a small boy, showing him how to fix a broken toy car. His calm smile, his soft tone. It was the same peace she'd always felt near him. For a moment, she didn't move. She just watched. "You should go talk to him," Tom said behind her. He had arrived silently, wearing his familiar warm grin. She turned. "You're here?" "Of course," he said. "Some stories need everyone to show up, even the hard ones." He gave her a gentle nod, then walked ahead to greet the children, giving her space. She finally walked toward Keanu. He looked up as she approached, that same knowing calm in his eyes. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi," he replied with a faint smile. "You made it, I promised," she said. They both stood quietly, watching the children play. The sound of laughter filled the courtyard. After a moment, Keanu spoke first. "You seem lighter." "Maybe I stopped running from what peace actually means," she replied. "I used to think peace meant forgetting, but now I know it's about remembering without pain." He looked at her for a long time before nodding. "That's the hardest part, remembering gently." A small girl ran up to them, holding a drawing. "This is you," she said to Keanu, showing a picture of a man giving a flower to a woman. Anna froze. It was the same image that had gone viral months ago. "For your peace," the child continued. "My teacher said you're the man who helps people be kind." Keanu smiled softly. "Your teacher is very kind too." When the girl ran off, Anna turned to him, eyes wet. "You didn't even try to hide your kindness, did you?" He chuckled. "You can't hide what isn't meant to stay small." After the shoot, the sun began to set, painting the sky gold and pink. The crew started packing up, and Tom joined them on the terrace overlooking the sea. Anna and Keanu stayed behind, sitting quietly on the old wooden bench near the courtyard. "I want to tell you something," Anna said finally, her voice trembling. "The night before my wedding, I almost called you." He didn't move. His eyes stayed calm. "Why didn't you?" "Because I knew if I heard your voice, I might not go through with it," she said. He took a slow breath, then said gently, "You did the right thing. You followed peace. That's all that matters." She shook her head. "It wasn't about choosing between two people. It was about choosing the kind of life I wanted, but you were the reminder that love doesn't always mean staying." His eyes softened. "And peace doesn't always mean letting go." She turned toward him. "So what does it mean?" "It means carrying what matters without needing to own it," he said quietly. A soft silence followed, the kind that doesn't feel empty, but full. In the distance, Tom watched them from the terrace. Claire, standing beside him, whispered, "You're not jealous, are you?" Tom smiled faintly. "No, I'm grateful." It takes strength to love someone enough to let them find peace, even if it's not with you. As the sun sank lower, the light turned golden. Keanu stood up, dusting his jacket. "You'll be fine," he said to Anna. "You already are." "Where will you go now?" she asked. "Where peace goes," he said with a small grin. "Wherever people forget what it looks like," she smiled back. "Then the world still needs you everywhere." He nodded. "Maybe. But sometimes even peace needs rest." He turned to leave, but she reached out, gently touching his hand. "Thank you." "For everything you didn't ask from me." He looked down at their joined hands, then back at her face. "Thank you." "For everything you learned without me saying it." They both smiled. Small, fragile, but real. As Keanu walked away, Anna felt the wind brush her hair, carrying with it the faint scent of lavender. She didn't turn around. She didn't need to. Some people don't exit your life. They just walk into your memory and stay there quietly. That night, Tom and Anna returned to their hotel. She stood by the balcony again, looking at the stars. Tom joined her, 2 cups of coffee in hand. "He's gone again, isn't he?" Tom said softly. "He was never really gone," she whispered. "Some people live in the spaces between our thoughts." Tom nodded slowly. Then maybe that's where peace lives too. The wind blew gently, carrying a quiet calm between them. For the first time in months, Anna didn't feel torn. She felt whole. And somewhere on a lonely road, Keanu rode his motorcycle into the horizon, his face calm, the night wind cool against his skin. Behind him, the world buzzed with noise, but inside him, there was only stillness. The kind that comes from knowing you gave more love than the world ever saw. The letter that never reached the film wrapped, the charity funds were raised, and the world moved on, or at least it seemed to. For Anna, life returned to red carpets, cameras, and interviews, but the rhythm no longer felt the same. The applause that once thrilled her now echoed like distant waves. She smiled for the cameras, but her eyes always seemed to search for something unseen. Perhaps a voice that once said, "Peace isn't about feeling calm, it's about choosing it." Tom noticed it too. He had grown used to the quiet pauses in her speech, the way she stared at sunsets a little too long. One evening, while they were sitting in the backyard of their Los Angeles home, he said softly, "You still think about him." She didn't pretend. "Not the way people think," she said. "It's not love. It's gratitude. Some people enter your life and rearrange how you see the world." "He did that," Tom nodded. "And you did the same for me." She smiled faintly, her eyes warm. "You've been nothing but grace, Tom," he chuckled. "Grace is just patience with love's timing." They both laughed softly, but inside, something shifted. A quiet acceptance that not all stories need closure to be complete. Across the city, Keanu was packing his things. He had decided to leave Los Angeles for a while. No announcements, no interviews, no farewells. He told Claire he wanted to spend time in Japan, somewhere quiet where he could teach photography to orphans in Kyoto. "People forget that peace needs practice," and he said. Smiling as he folded his clothes, he found the letter Anna had written months ago. The one that began with, "You once said peace isn't about what you feel." He held it in his hands, then slowly placed it in his jacket pocket. He whispered to himself, "Some words are meant to travel with you, not to stay behind." On the morning of his flight, Keanu stopped at a small flower shop near Sunset Boulevard. He bought a single lavender stem, pressed it between two sheets of paper, and placed it in an envelope with a note that said, "When peace grows quiet, plant it again." He didn't write a name. He simply asked the florist to deliver it to the Charity Foundation office where Anna often volunteered. 3 days later, Anna walked into the office and saw the envelope waiting on her desk. She opened it slowly, and when the lavender fell onto her hand, her breath caught. There was no name, but she didn't need one. Tears welled in her eyes as she read the single line. "When peace grows quiet, plant it again." She smiled through her tears. "He still writes in whispers," she murmured. That evening, Anna drove alone to the ocean. The sky was painted in the soft gold of late sunset. She took off her shoes and walked into the cool waves, holding the lavender in her hand. For a long moment, she just stood there, letting the water touch her feet, her dress brushing the tide. Then, gently, she let the flower go. It floated for a moment, caught the light, and drifted away, not sinking, just moving where the current carried it. Behind her, Tom stood at a distance. He hadn't followed her. He had simply arrived on his own, knowing where she would be. He didn't speak. He just stood there watching her let go, and somehow, that silence was enough. After a while, she turned around. "You always find me when I'm quiet," she said softly. Tom smiled. "It's the only time you truly speak." They both laughed gently. No tension, no past, no pain. Just two people who had learned what love looked like after it stopped demanding anything in return. Months later, in a quiet schoolyard in Kyoto, Keanu stood surrounded by children holding cameras. Laughter filled the air. A small girl tugged his sleeve and pointed at a butterfly resting on a flower. He crouched beside her, lifted the camera, and whispered, "Sometimes, the best pictures are the ones we don't take." "We just keep them here," he said, touching his heart. The girl smiled brightly, and in that moment, Keanu felt something he hadn't felt in years, lightness, as the sun set behind the mountains. He sat alone under a cherry blossom tree, pulling out his notebook. Inside was a folded piece of paper, Anna's letter. He opened it, read the words again, and beneath it he wrote something new. "You taught me that kindness has its own language. I'll keep speaking it wherever I go." He folded it carefully and placed it back in his jacket. Above him, pink petals fell slowly, covering the ground like soft whispers of peace. Back in Los Angeles, Anna received a package one morning. Inside was a small photograph, a landscape of a sunrise over Kyoto. On the back, written in familiar handwriting, were 5 words. "Peace looks good on you?" She smiled, her eyes glistening. She placed the photo beside the silver bracelet, the one engraved, "For Your Peace." Both now rested together in a small wooden box. That evening, she recorded a short message for her foundation's website. She didn't mention names. She didn't talk about love or fame, just kindness. "There are gifts in life that aren't seen," she said softly. "They don't sparkle, they don't make headlines, but they change how we breathe. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give back is peace." A year later, the world had moved on, but the ripples of their story quietly continued. In the children's smiles Keanu taught, in the lives Anna helped through her foundation, and in Tom's calm guidance as he began mentoring young filmmakers. None of them spoke of that chapter again, but it lived in small moments, the lavender, the bracelet, the quiet look across a crowded room, because some connections are not meant to end. They simply become part of who you are.